What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Z Jiggy back at you with another video. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you how I made this varsity jacket from an all-white blanket. Like I said, the blanket was all white, so I had to dye parts of the blanket to get it that gray and the darker gray color. So the materials that I used were the blanket, some dyes, general sewing materials such as a sewing machine, thread, scissors for the patch on the back. It was hand tufted, so I used a punch needle, but you can use a rug gun if you are familiar with that, and some yarn and monk's cloth and some fabric glue to finish it off. Yeah, and I'll be taking you through the whole process of me making the jacket. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so to start off this project, I had to cut out each piece of the jacket using the patterns that I had. You can either purchase these patterns from the store, or you can make them yourself, just tracing over each piece of a good fitting jacket that you own. And to cut out the pieces, I ended up using a rotary cutter. I forgot to add that to the materials list, but you could just use a pair of scissors. Just make sure that you stay as close to the edge of the pattern as possible, and you should be good. Now for this varsity jacket, the pieces that we will be cutting out will include the back of the jacket, the two sleeves, the collar, and the two front pieces of the jacket. These are just the patterns for the jacket itself, like the base of the jacket, and we'll be cutting out the patches and stuff in the next step. So like I said before, next we will be cutting out the patches for the jacket. Now to do this, I also made patterns of the patches using freezer paper, but you could also make the patterns out of any type of paper. Freezer paper just sticks when you iron it down, so it's a little easier to cut out with the smaller patches. To make these patterns, I basically used my Cricut. I put the freezer paper on the sticky pad, fed it into the Cricut, uploaded my designs for each patch, and it cut out all of the patches that I needed. And if you do decide to use freezer paper as the pattern, make sure that you have the shiny side facing down, because that side is what sticks to the material. And this is how it came out, all my patterns ironed down on the material. So the next step would be to cut out those patterns. Now to cut out the patches, I ended up going back with the scissors instead of the rotary cutter. I tried to use the rotary cutter, but some of the edges were just a little too sharp to maneuver with the rotary cutter, so it was easier to just cut it out with the scissors. And again, I'm just trying to cut as close to the edge of the pattern as possible, just so it could come out more professional. And this is how the patches came out. As you can see, each patch has a background piece followed by little pieces on the front of it. These will need to be dyed next. The background is going to be dark gray and the front pieces are going to be regular gray. Now, initially, I planned for the base of the jacket to be like a light gray color, and the background pieces of the patches to be a black. But when I first dyed them, I also ended up dyeing a few of my clothes. But when I first dyed them, they didn't come out the color that I expected. You're gonna see it in this next clip in a second. Yeah, so this is how they first came out. It was more of like a darkish raspberry color, I guess you can say. I don't know. But I ended up going back and dyeing it again with some, at first I was using the regular Ritz dye. I went back and got some dye more and used that with like a darker color. And it's funny because when I first drew up the design for the jacket, Photoshop was acting a little weird, and it ended up coming out like the base of the jacket was like a light gray color, and the background patches were like a dark gray color, but I was planning for it to be black, but it came out that dark gray. So I just found that kind of funny. But yeah, for this step, all of the pieces that needed to be dyed include the front and the back pieces of the base of the jacket, the collars. Those all needed to be dyed a light gray, and the background pieces of the patches, they all needed to be dyed well, I wanted it to be black, but they came out a dark gray. And this is how those patches came out after I re-dyed them with the dye more. Put them up to the other pieces to compare it, and as you can see, like that piece I dyed was like a light gray, and the patches came out like a darker gray. And the rest of the pieces for the jacket would be white. And then after the background pieces for the patches finished drying, I used the fabric glue to glue the front pieces to the background pieces. And as far as aligning the front pieces to the background, I was really just eyeballing it just to give it enough space around each side of the front pieces to make it look like it's the shadow is like even around each edge, if you understand what I'm saying. And this is how it came out after I glued those pieces together. So the next step would be to put some weight on top of those patches, just so the glue can bond the front pieces to the background pieces. And I actually ended up hand sewing the front piece to the background pieces just to give it some extra security. So next we will be focusing on the tufted patch on the back of the jacket. So to do that, I basically just did the regular setup how I regularly make a rug. So I put my base material, the monk's cloth, on the frame. I stretch it out to make sure that there's no wrinkles in the material. Make sure that there's tension. Then I projected my design onto the material, holding up the background patch just to make sure that it's up to scale. And then I traced out the design. And as far as the base material that you use to make the rug, they have other options besides monk's cloth, like burlap. But it's a lot easier to trace your design on monk's cloth. So I would definitely recommend using that. And while you're tracing your design, I would definitely recommend, blocking the projection every now and then, just to make sure you got every little detail into your drawing. Because if you leave out anything from the drawing, then you're not gonna really know to tuft that part. And this is how the tracing came out. And the next part would be to tuft it. And I didn't record myself hand tufting the rug because I was procrastinating on this project for quite some time, so I ended up doing it over a span of a couple weeks. But after that patch is finished being tufted, I basically just put the fabric glue on the back of it, spread it all around, make sure that it covered all of the yarns and stuff, and cut out the patch, leaving about an inch or two of excess monk's cloth along the edges. And then on that excess of material, you just make those slits about 2 inches away from each other, diagonal, so you can fold those slits down and finish up the edges of that patch. And to glue these pieces down, I just simply used a glue gun. And this is how the finished patch came out, with all of the excess fabric glued to the back of it. So once I got my patch finished up, the next step would be to glue all of the patches to the base of the jacket. Now I realized a couple things while I was doing this. One, I probably should have glued the patch for the front after I sewed all of the pieces together, just because it would have aligned a little bit better, but it still came out pretty good. And two, I know that there is a better method of gluing this patch down, but I just kind of simply just like threw the patch and it kind of messed up the aligning a little bit, so I had to move it and it got a little bit more glue on the back of my jacket, but I was able to wipe that off, so I'm not really too worried about that. But yeah, you're just gonna want to glue down all of those patches, make sure that it's bonded pretty tight with the base material, just so the glue can actually do its job. And yeah, after this we're gonna put the weights on it and let it sit for a while. And then, just to give the patches just a little bit more reinforcement, I just sewed them down to the base of the jacket. And like I was saying before, I probably should have sewed together all of the pieces for the base of the jacket and then maybe did the patches on there. But, or at least for the front, I should have done that. For the back, I did the right thing, because it would have been too many patches to try to sew on there while the jacket is completely sewn together. After everything was sewn together, I have to install the snaps, and to do this I just basically marked where all of the snaps would go, and then I had to make an incision into the material, like a small hole, just so I can get that piece through and hammer it down. And yeah, I just put the front piece to the back piece and just hammered it down. And this is the final product, the finished jacket with all of the patches sewn onto it. I will admit I did get a little lazy when it came to the bottom of the jacket. So if you didn't notice, I didn't finish the bottom of it. I think I'm going to keep it like that just to, well, for one, I'm a little done with this project. I've been putting it off for so long that I'm ready to be finished with it. And for two, I kind of like how it looks. It just gives it that raw, unfinished look. But that will conclude today's video. Thank you for watching. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at 4ty.clo. Turn on post notifications to stay informed about drops and stuff like that. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Again, it's your boy Z Jiggy here with For the Youth. Checking out. Peace.